So to start with, we need to take off the serpentine belt, and in order to get to the belt tensioner, first we need to remove this air duct. So to remove the air duct, first we need to take out this clip. Now we need to open up this. Okay, so just inserting the screwdriver kind of helps to pry it open. Now we just need to separate the clips on this side. So to separate this air duct from this plastic piece, like a scoop, what you need to do is take a small screwdriver, and then you need to insert between this metal piece and the top of the scoop, kind of go in, and you'll see the screwdriver is going to get on the other side, and then you're going to insert the screwdriver about here, lift this thing up just to pull it over, and then when you do that, the bottom piece is already much easier to remove. Next, we need to get to the serpentine belt tensioner. Not a bolt, but there's a little hole for Torx socket that you can pull on it and release the tension on the belt. Now it's located just over here. Let me pull the light. You see where the belt runs over here? So it's located right about this location, but it's under the belt. So it's quite tight to get there. So if you have really big hands, it's quite difficult. So in this case, what you're gonna have to do is loosen up this heat exchanger, and to do that there are two fasteners, one over here on top and one down there. So you're gonna have to get to those fasteners and loosen up, so basically free this heat exchanger, and then separate it from here, just pull it down, and then you're gonna have a better access. Now I'm gonna try and get to that bolt without removing this heat exchanger or without loosening it, because it's quite difficult to reach this bottom bolt that's holding it. So in order to reach to that, you're gonna have to create a tool like that. So what I have here is a T60 socket. To get the thing in, first you're gonna have to use your hand. Just slide it in like this, and with your finger you're gonna have to locate where the forks get inserted. So it's right under the belt. Now that I have the location, I'm gonna insert the Torx with a 3-inch extension. Just slide it in carefully. Okay, make sure it's inserted all the way in. Now I'm gonna insert the 2-inch extension. Squeeze my hand in. Now you can see where the end sticks out right under this heat exchanger. So now I need to insert there the breaker bar. If you're having difficulties like me getting the breaker bar in there, you can use a ratchet. Let's see if that's gonna go in. Okay, now I've lined it up. Now I just need to push it in. Okay, so I got it inserted. Okay, careful, don't destroy the radiator. Sorry, not the radiator, but the fan, because it's plastic. And make sure that everything's inserted. And now I need to push the handle counterclockwise. And now I can take off the belt. And now release. Okay. So now you can see the belt is free. So now that the serpentine belt is free, I can move to removal of the steering pump. A word of caution: be very careful around this tube, because this little plastic fitting is very brittle usually, and it tends to break. So also, before you start removing the steering pump, take a plastic bag and cover the alternator, because it's located right under the steering pump, and you're gonna have some oil leaking and coming down and coming onto the alternator. Okay, so now the alternator is covered. So now I need to remove all the steering fluid from this steering pump. Alright, so I got most of the fluid out. So now I can remove the pump. So now I need to disconnect the suction hose, which runs from here, comes here and enters the reservoir, and down here you can see that's the pressure line. So both these lines need to be disconnected. Now the suction line, to remove the clamp you can use a small screwdriver. So insert the screwdriver and just pop it open like this and slide it back. Okay, so now you need a 17mm wrench to loosen up this nut. And careful. Okay, let's check if I have a stubby wrench. Okay, I'm gonna put some paper . You can pull back the fitting. Okay, and now I'm gonna pull this supply hose off. There's quite a lot of oil coming, so I don't want to make a mess, so I'm just gonna drain it slowly. Let the paper absorb it. Alright, so now I can remove the 3 bolts holding the steering pump in place. So to remove the 3 bolts you're gonna need the reverse Torx. This is E12 and an extension, and for the top one Mercedes conveniently has a little tunnel, so you can insert that in here. Alright, so careful, like I said, careful with this tube. I'm gonna insert the ring, get to the torque. Okay, I'm gonna leave it hanging there just like that. Now I need to get to the bottom ones, so obviously this extension is a bit too long. Now the thing should be free. Okay, it's still holding on the bottom. Alright, so that's the steering pump out. Okay, now just take the new pump. Let's find out where does it fit better. On this side. Bring it down. Remove this. So line up the hose, the pressure hose on the bottom. And now let's see if I can insert the bolt that comes on top. Right, and I'm just gonna start the bolt. Just make sure it's holding there. Now all you need, just insert the other two bolts and tighten them. Alright, so I got all three bolts tightened. I tighten up the pressure line. So the return line, I'm gonna leave it off for now because I want to replace all the fluid in this system. So I might just put it on like this, but it's not, there's no clamp on it. So now we need to return the serpentine belt back, and then we can fill it up with fluid and replace the original old fluid that's in there. Okay, so just need to line up everything back as it was. Okay, everything seems okay. Now I just need to reach for my wrench, make sure it still sits all the way in, and pull on it. And at the same time make sure everything lines up and everything sits in a groove. So let's inspect. Okay, this pulley is okay, this one's okay, this one is okay. The one that is hard to see is down below. Okay, that seems okay. Okay, the crankshaft pulley is okay. So yep, the serpentine sits where it should. Don't forget to remove this wrench or ratchet. You don't want to start your car with that. Now we can return the intake. To flush the steering system, we disconnect the return line from the reservoir. Okay, I have a tube or a hose with a metal tube that fits this size of the hose. I'm going to put a clamp over here, and I'm going to insert that tube inside, and I'm going to put some kind of a jar or bottle or anything that you're going to collect the old fluid. The old fluid from the steering rack is going to go back, rather than going into the reservoir. It's going to go over here. Now you need to take some fresh steering fluid and fill up the reservoir. Just fill it up, and then you need to take a piece of hose on this side and connect it to the return port on the steering pump, and just bring it above the height so any fluid that you put in does not leak out. So that's all the setup. So now if you have a second person, it's even better. But what do you want to do? You want to start the car and turn the steering wheel left and right, and that will force the fluid out of the steering circuit. With this method you can't really run the car for a long time because the flow rate is high, and you can drain the steering fluid really fast, and you don't want to run your steering pump without any fluid. A more safer way would be just to jack up the front wheels, and without starting the car, just turn the steering wheel left and right, forcing the old steering fluid out of the system. You can repeat this procedure until you see clear fluid coming from the return line into your jar. Okay, so now just need to connect the return line and close this clamp on the end of the hose. After you have checked all the connections to be tight, you can start the car and check your steering pump for any leaks.